Season 6 of Ladybug has just barely started this new 3-season arc where Lila is the big villain. But already it seems like Lila has figured out that Marinette is actually Ladybug. So let's break down how that played out in this recent episode. Now, at the end of each episode of Season 6, or at least most episodes, we get a scene of Lila in her secret base where we get tiny cryptic hints about the bigger story going on. The thing about Lila is that she's supposed to be smarter than Gabriel, who we clown on for not noticing the obvious, but who is also pretty smart as far as devising evil schemes go. With Lila, however, she's a bit more personal and small scale. She knows how to manipulate things on a smaller level to get something tangential to her bigger goal in order to help her. In previous seasons, Gabriel, as the holder of the Butterfly Miraculous, would generally just try to use akumatized villains to get the Miraculous of Ladybug and Cat Noir. But Lila is really just using that formula as a way to gather information and test out new things. Meanwhile, Ladybug and Cat Noir are so focused on that formula itself, as in saving the day, that they don't realize what data is gathered each time. This reached its peak with the recent episode Dark Castle, which was a pretty misleading episode up until this moment. The episode itself focused on the story of Alex with the Miraculous of the Rabbit, which gives people the power to travel through time. The problem with Alex is that her Miraculous is too powerful for the show to actually play with, as it would make the characters way too overpowered. Even just knowing that Alex is waiting around in the burrow with the ability to use the power when they need it is huge plot armor, and it was essentially the entire plot of the Miraculous World London special. Basically, Lila was able to figure out Ladybug's secret identity and make a wish using the two Miraculous, which Alex simply helps Marinette undo. It's a bit of a shame writing-wise because no matter how bad things get, someone will always be there just to undo it with time travel. But once in a while, we need a full episode to remind us of just how plot-breaking this power would be if it was allowed to be in every single episode. With the Miraculous of the Rabbit belonging to a classmate, every episode would become about using that power to undo things that went wrong. It's for the same reason even Luca had to be written out of the main cast at some point, as even his 5-minute rewind became way too powerful. The problem with this kind of plot armor, however, is that when it's in the hands of the villains, it can also work in their favor, and unfortunately, everyone knows the identity of Alex as the holder of the Rabbit Miraculous. It didn't stop her from coming back to visit her class at other points in the show, but for this episode, Ladybug made a big deal about how she needs someone to be in the burrow with the Rabbit Miraculous at all times in order to stop it from falling into the villain's hands. With that in mind, I thought time travel was going to make things go horribly wrong for Marinette in this episode, as it often causes some sort of complication even when used for good. But this was explored in a mostly shallow way this time. After taking Alex's place and becoming Bunnybug, Marinette can't help but adjust the timeline so things go perfectly for Alex. But in doing so, she sees what Alex probably sees when she plays with the timeline, that it ends up having catastrophic events. The show really had the balls to make Marinette accidentally kill hundreds, if not thousands upon thousands of people, with a huge ripple effect of just stopping a few events, leading to maybe the whole world being destroyed. But she was able to just casually use her rewind powers to undo what she did and leave things as they were. It's an important lesson about why messing with the timeline is such a bad idea, and I assumed that the second half of the episode would explore that even more when Lila finally sends an akumatized villain. This week, the akumatization theme was big on the overthrowing of previous royal orders, cause this is a French cartoon, but Ladybug ends up defeating him pretty simply. With the help of Cat Noir, they have an epic battle with their new animation, and this giant monster made of older buildings. But the victory felt really hollow because of how easy it was. At least until we got our final scene with Lila, and we found out what this battle was really about. The reason I thought time travel would play a bigger role here is because in order to fight the akumatized villain, Ladybug had to leave the burrow. But as per her plan, she couldn't leave the burrow with the Rabbit Miraculous, even though it's clearly happened before and wouldn't be that big a deal once in a while, but you get it. They were trying to make it feel extra important for the sake of this episode. And because of that, Ladybug actually had to have the future version of her come into the burrow and hold on to the Rabbit Miraculous, while present Ladybug went to fight the villain. The episode already set up some sort of similar time loop with Marinette getting the idea to use the Rabbit Miraculous to let Alex go to her party, making you wonder where the idea first originated to start this loop going. I was basically expecting some sort of paradox to be set up by this stuff that led to a big consequence that had to be undone at the end of the episode, and time travel episodes are often the most dramatic in the entire series because of this sort of storytelling. But like with the battle against the akumatized villain, everything actually worked out just fine. But at the end, we got the reveal that this wasn't a real akumatization attack, as Lila doesn't really expect the akumatized villains to actually be capable of getting Marinette's Miraculous. Lila is supposed to be more calculating than Gabriel, and after a full year of failed akumatizations, Lila has no reason to think that her use of the Butterfly Miraculous would be any more successful without more thought put into it. And unfortunately, it's not easy to predict what powers you will have to exploit when you akumatize someone until you sense their negative emotions. Without being able to plan their powers ahead, however, Lila Lila's best bet becomes using the existing battle formula to find weaknesses and other exploits to uncover Ladybug's identity. And she seems certain that Ladybug is Marinette. Lila, of course, has a vendetta against Marinette, and even without proving she is Ladybug, she has ranted in previous episodes about how she is going to take everyone away from Marinette until she has no one left. But the idea that she is Ladybug probably came from more exploitation of the person who came before her, Gabriel. You see, Gabriel had actually uncovered the identities of a lot of the Miraculous holders, and it became public knowledge who they were. It's such common knowledge that in this latest episode, Alex is explained as being away because she holds the Miraculous even to newcomers outside of their main friend group. So it's pretty well known who a lot of these Miraculous holders are. And Lila in particular has more reason than anyone to realize that they all have something in common. In seasons 1 through 5, Ladybug gave the Miraculous almost exclusively to her classmates, and when it wasn't someone in her class, it was someone just 1 year up like Julika's brother or Chloe's younger sister Zoe. The point is that Lila would realize that someone in the class or very closely connected to them is Ladybug herself. And with Marinette and Adrien being the only 2 people in the class who aren't publicly Miraculous holders, it's not that hard to figure out which would be which. Luca even did this before anyone else, and he's not even in Marinette's class, so there's no reason Lila wouldn't either. Thankfully, the powers of the Miraculous mean that some sort of funky wonky magic makes Lila not 100% sure on her theory, and she wants to do her due diligence. If she acts without having all the information right, she could ruin the attempt to do her plan to the real Ladybug later, so for now, Lila insists that she has to keep testing her theory to see if it's true. In this episode, Lila established that her plan is to send akumatized villains and simply keep track of who ends up being missing from this event or that event, such as Alex's birthday. Marinette, of course, wasn't there while the battle was going on, so Lila got to say that maybe Marinette is Ladybug. But with so many people living in Paris, she has to make sure, as Marinette could have been absent for other reasons. In the episode, for instance, Marinette had to create the fake pretense of being sick so that no one would question why she in particular wasn't at Alex's birthday, as she was the only one she trusted to hold onto the Rabbit Miraculous while the party was happening. With that in mind, if Lila, say, tried to expose Marinette, she could be told really valid excuses for why Marinette wasn't there. And thanks to the power of illusion and other such powers, we have multiple instances where Marinette does appear to be in the event surrounding Ladybug. With Ladybug even pretending to give Marinette the power of Multi-Mouse to make them look like they are separate heroes. Lila may be aware of these moments, she may not, but she knows enough about what Marinette is up to that she's going to keep testing her theory every chance she gets. Lila is obsessive in these scenes, hiding among piles and piles of notebooks where she records every detail so she always has it to reference and inspire new ideas and connections. My guess is that by the end of the season, Lila will finally have enough evidence that Marinette is Ladybug and maybe even that Adrien is Cat Noir. Now, she could immediately steal the Miraculous like she did in the London special, but that leads to Alex using the time travel to help Marinette. And I can't help but believe that Alex was brought in for this episode in order to remind us of that. Maybe in addition to finding out about Marinette's identity, Lila is working on a way to lure out Alex to get the Rabbit Miraculous so that it can't be used against her. We've seen this not work out for the bad guys before, but perhaps before we get that far, we'll have a fun season where Lila focuses on sabotaging Marinette and Adrien as people instead of focusing on their superhero identities, breaking them there to eventually get the Miraculous when they are weak that way. It would be a really fun approach to the show and the kind of personal emotional damage approach that is true to Lila's character, but what do you guys think? And if you want more Miraculous Ladybug, make sure you subscribe because we'll be talking about this for the next 14 years probably. See you guys next time.